It's the Rangers Journal night.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Rangers Journal. My name is Billy Rankin. I'm joined by two stalwarts of the Rangers Journal. First of all, Jock, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. Just looking forward to this game and seeing what's going to happen come the end of 90 minutes.
You're wearing the top. It's not quite my first top that I got, but it's the one before it. But I do remember obviously watching the videos back then and seeing that one. Andrew, joined by you as well. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to go into a qualifier with a couple of goals advantage, but obviously 90 minutes, anything can happen. But I just hope we can see Rangers progressing on last week's performance and hopefully starting the way we ended it.
Yeah. That's the thing, Jock, where it's half time technically, 2 goals up, but the team's not really where we normally expect it to be by this kind of point in the season. I guess we expect to have seen a bit more of them. We've obviously only seen a couple of friendlies and some training videos. So how are you feeling, before we talk about the team, how are you feeling roughly as we sit here at half time?
I'm pretty confident. I think, as I was saying to you earlier, I think if this had been last season and we were going in with the style of football we're playing, I think I'd be a lot calmer going in with a 2-0 lead. But the fact that the football that we now play means we're a wee bit more open at the back and we're expecting our centre-backs to do certain things and move with the ball gives me the absolute fear in a European qualifier. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the players cope with the atmosphere, and obviously being the away team, this team are going to try and come at us. It's up to us to exploit that. So it's going to be an interesting match, that's for sure.
Andrew, Jock makes a point, obviously it is an away game, but it isn't their normal stadium they're playing at. So they've got a bit of a kind of situation like we had last season playing at Hampden. And we certainly blamed an awful lot of the problems at the beginning of the season on not playing at Ibrox. How important do you think that's going to be for Panathinaikos?
It's a weird one because obviously Panathinaikos are kind of used to playing in their bigger games. So yeah, it's a bit of a slightly different thing. Granted, seeing the stadium earlier, we always used to think the running track at Hampden was bad. That one, they've got, it's so far away from the pitch. The fact that they never seem to fill it either, I think helps us dramatically as well. I think it's not going to be necessarily the cauldron. It will be a bit of a cauldron. You're out in Athens, any football game out in Greece does get a bit spicy, like when you're out in Turkey and things like that. But you look back at Hampden and realistically, result-wise, bar the Dinamo game, the results weren't too bad there. I know there was a lot of things going on, but I think that the main problem was Clement's team was a bit flat at the start of the season. But obviously, I digress. But yeah, no, realistically, from what Martin said, he's looking to attack. He's looking to go at them. And of course, like Jock said there, they will have to come out as they need to get something. And that could very well play into our hands. But I'm not looking forward to seeing us play for the back. I'm really not. I hate seeing it in Europe just because I know that we aren't necessarily at that level to, be good enough to do it. But you know what? You never know.
Well, I probably should have brought this picture up a bit earlier. So here is the starting lineup. And I'll stay with you, Andrew, because Jock heard my groan when I pulled it up before the podcast started. Same team as last week. And unexpected for me is Dowell is still in there.
Yeah, no, it's not as if Dowell really tore it up last week and, proved us all wrong. That does happen sometimes. But I'm thinking it's because of necessarily limited options per se. Dell's obviously showing something. He's showing something in this system. I've seen him about once, being able to drive very well in a game and play fairly decently. But it's few and far between. For me, he's a very average utility player, and I'm trying not to be disrespectful here, but yeah, I didn't see anything last week from him that really showed why he should be starting this week. But then we got to look at this. It's the same team as last week. So, even Gassama's not, starting. Which to be fair, it's a decent enough side. But yeah, Dowell is the kind of eyebrow that raises there. Obviously, Aaron's at left back as well. I don't think that's working for him. Could he grow into that? Possibly. He has played at left back before. Maybe he just needs to get used to the team. But yeah, Dowell, not for me. And that's not to be disrespectful.
Feel free to pile on, Jock, on Dowell, but I will move off him personally because I did think that Aaron's last week was not having a good game at left back. Are you confident it was just a bad game and he'll kind of pull it out for this one?
I think it's always going to be difficult when you're asking a right-footed player to play on that left side because he's going to revert back to using his right foot, so it gives the advantage to the opposing team because they know basically what he's going to do every time. I thought some moments he did okay, some moments he slipped and he gave the ball away a couple of times, but that's part and parcel of getting used to this system. It's something we're going to have to get used to is giving the ball away in dangerous positions, but it's how do we recover from it, especially being so far deep in their own half. But there were some moments I thought where he turned his man inside out and he kept doing the same thing over and over again, and it seemed to work because he's quick. He has that ability to do it, take the ball in the half turn, and that's something I noticed at the weekend when your man Cameron, the guy we got for Dundee. My mind's went blank. Is it him? He came on and the ball came into him and he took the ball in the half turn and he was gone. And that's what we needed because we needed that to start to set up the attacking phase of play because we couldn't beat the press. He was able to do that no bother, and I think that's something Aaron has the ability to do. So it's probably something we're going to have to get used to because it's certainly Jeffrey hasn't done enough in that left back position. We know Yilmaz is probably on the way out the door, so I think it's just something we're just going to have to get used to unless we bring somebody else in.
It was Cameron. Sorry, Jog. I was having a kind of a mind block when I was reading the comments at the same time as listening to you. That's a bad habit for on the side of the screen when you're choosing comments to pull up. Andrew, I've just had a look at the weather, which is another reason why I never caught Jog asking that there, which is a bit embarrassing. But the 31 degrees currently, and it doesn't drop to below 30 until 11 o'clock this evening. How big a thing is that going to play? I know the manager was asked about it in the press conference yesterday, but the heat and the humidity, how big is that going to affect the players?
Well, yeah, normally we would have a pre-season camp somewhere like Spain or somewhere, where you kind of not necessarily fully get used to it because, we play in Scotland at the end of the day, but, we have a little taster of it. But to be fair, when we were down at St George's Park, it was, because I lived down in England, and it was boiling. It was, like 35, 36 degrees at times, where it's that horrible, sticky, humid weather, and they were doing double sessions in that heat as well, and it was absolutely muggy. Obviously the heat's a little bit different out there. Yeah, you get a little bit of mugginess. It's just that kind of just the raw heat, though. It's like choosing, do you want a slap in the face or kick in the stomach in that regards, though it's still going to not be a nice thing to play football in, but it's something they're going to have to overcome. If you want to play in Europe, you are going to have to go to places where it is hot, and you have to get used to this because otherwise you shouldn't really be at Rangers if you don't want to be used to it. I'm surprised if Fuentes hasn't requested to come over with the team as well to Athens because he does like it a bit warmer.
Yeah, well, I mean, if all my workmates were going to Athens, I'd maybe ask to go along as well. I'd like to go and visit the place. But, Jock, Finlay Curtis starts well deserved, in my opinion. Obviously, the goal last week, he's not really put a foot wrong.
No, he had a frustrating first half at Ibrox last week. You could see that. Things he was trying and things he was asked to do just didn't seem to work. And I think there was a lot of call for him to come off at halftime. I think he was one of the sort of names that was being mentioned, and then he goes and shows why he should be starting because he has the ability, he has that instinct in him to pull something out of nothing, create a bit of magic, a bit of moment, something that we've only seen in drips and drabs in the first team, but certainly on the big stage of that, he took his chance, and as far as I'm concerned, that position's his to throw away now. Certainly, he's doing everything right, and he's in now. He's got a manager who is clearly not afraid to use youth and give youth an opportunity and let youth thrive because he's done that everywhere he's been. So I'm thinking he's probably the right manager to take him forward in his career at this stage.
Yeah, Andrew Iggerman didn't travel with the squad. I don't know if we got an answer on what the injury or what the problem actually is with him. So fill me in if you have heard, but that either suggests to me it is genuinely an injury or he's close to the exit door. Either way, we could have been doing with him tonight.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It could also be a matter of fact that maybe Martin's looked and thought maybe save him for the opener at the weekend. Having 2 goals, it is a comfortable lead. It's not the most comfortable lead possible. I think sometimes it's that old adage 2-0 can be worse than 1-0, which makes no sense, but you know exactly where they come from when they say it, because sometimes you get a little bit too comfortable. Realistically, we should have enough in this squad to at least see the game out, or if it is a loss, then a minimal loss. But obviously, you want this to be as comfortable as possible. You want all your best players available. Maybe he's just not up to speed yet, and maybe he's been saved for the weekend. I think the concerning one for me is Osgaard even. The fact that he was only a few days away, it seemed that he was likely to make the second leg, and all of a sudden he's still not there yet. And obviously we get the PTSD and the fear of, the Jordan Rossiter syndrome of 7 to 10 days away. Obviously, I don't think that's the case, but it's interesting that he's still not able to feature. But again, could this just be that maybe he's been saved for the league opener with Igaman? But yeah, Igaman, it seems to have all gone stale, a bit stagnant with the cold transfer. But there's obviously movement going on with a few clubs, so maybe they're just waiting to release funds for transfers, possibly. But yeah, it's definitely a bit of an unknown.
Jog, Osgaard, I was listening to, I think it was Heart and Hands daily update on the way home, and they mentioned he didn't travel with the squad. And I think I just slammed the steering wheel because I'm just, you're fed up of it. It's always the ones you're excited about seeing. And yeah, we do have but it's not just Jordan Rossiter PTSD. It seems like our good players get the injuries more often than not. And obviously, yeah, these guys are faster pace guys. They're the exciting ones, the tricky ones. They do tend to pick up these injuries. Obviously, I'm assuming you'd like to have seen him over there this evening, but I don't know. When this the injury came out last week, I actually didn't expect him to be there this evening. I just felt they were trying to play it down a little and hope for the best, but I just felt these kind of players never seem to be out just for that 1 week.
Yeah, like you say, it's those type of players, those exciting, energetic, explosive players. Always tend to sort of pick up injuries, and it just happens to be that Saw's Law. It's him out of everybody that's come in the door. It's one of the ones that we're really itching to see because we haven't really seen much of him. We've only seen the highlight YouTube reels. It's a bit like Gassama, but Gassama's been able to come on the pitch and highlight what he can do already. So it is disappointing. But if him being out another week or two means he's going to be here, fit and fresh for the next couple of games in terms of the season and hopefully European games going forward, then I would leave him out. I wouldn't risk it. Just tell him to get himself right, get himself back fighting fit and getting ready because it's just a long season.
Yeah. Andrew, if you're Panathinaikos, how do you approach this game? You've seen us last week. Hopefully we're a wee bit better than we were in the first half, but we came out in the second half. How would you kind of approach this match? Would you be going all out from the beginning, or would you maybe try to just feel your way into the game?
I think you have to. You look last week, what the cauldron of Ibrox is. There's many teams that have gone to Ibrox and failed, just because the atmosphere, the noise that goes right through you. And they started very well, realistically. Butland kept us in that first half, and it almost makes you think a little bit of the butterfly effect. If one had gone in, maybe another 2 might have gone in. It really would have changed the whole complexity of it. It looks like Bakasetas, I think he's going to make the game. He played in the first leg. He got a slight injury. It looked like he might not make this one, so he will be big for them. They've got to go for it. They have to try and pin us back and use. They're used to the climate. They're used to playing there. I know it's not their stadium, but they're just used to it there. They need to go for it. They can't risk keeping it tight, getting to half time and then really going for it in the second half. They saw last week we were a different animal in the second half, so they'll have to try and go for it. They'll see the same team, and you know what, if that was us last week, we'd be absolutely gutted. We'd be like, we should have had them in the first half, and they'll be feeling the exact same way. They'll go for it. They'll see that team that's starting and go, right, it's the same team, let's go for it. I just hope that we are up to it, and I just hope we can take the game to them and really pin them back. And you know what, just get a goal before half-time, just absolutely kill the tie. It would be fantastic.
Jock, they are without their supposed star player, Vagianidis. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Did you think he made an impact? I know he doesn't affect this game, but did you think he made an impact last week? That it is a a good thing that he's not there for us?
See, for being brutally honest, I was only focusing on us and what we were doing. I didn't really care what they were doing. I was just more raging that the ref maybe let a few more challenges go that he should have pulled boys back for bookings. I was just, because it was the first time seeing the team in a competitive game, I was more trying to watch everybody else and seeing what they were doing and seeing what's new and what's fresh for the team. But if he's one of their better rated players and he's not playing, it can only help us. But then, they could go to their youth academy and pick out a absolute wonder kid or something who could come in and do what Curtis did. It's one of those ones where I think it could go either way. I just hope that everybody's switched on and that there's no silly mistakes that lead to goals, because that's been our downfall in European football this last couple of years. Has been moments of lapse of concentration. Look at Butland last year at Old Trafford. He fisted the ball in his net. I know, flashback, sorry, but more injuries for them that are their starting players, as far as I'm concerned, is good for us. But I say they always have, traditionally they have good homegrown talent in their team as well.
Andrew, midfield, Rothwell, Diamandi, Raskin, that's probably what we all expected. What do they need to do tonight?
It'll be an interesting one, because it'll be, especially out of possession, I think that they might be a little bit more defensive than usual. I think they just don't want to concede that goal. It'd be good to see Diamandi and Raskin, in possession, pushing forward more, with Rothwell, kind of in front of that defence, just kind of like just adding that little bit of security. But I just have a feeling that you look at this lineup, I just don't think Martin's going to change too much tactically, even from that kind of first game. I think he's just going to go for it. We've seen a few quotes in the press. Diamandi says, they're not going to be scared of being there and playing there. I just think that it's going to be that philosophy is going to be through every game in Europe, at least. I just feel that we are going to play that same way, try and have that high press tempo, playing from the back. But Rothwell, he had a fantastic game last week. I just hope he can just repeat that performance. But we just have to be sharper at the back. I think the back is what gives me a fear a little bit, because it's not a back line that, obviously there's experience there, Suter and obviously Tav on the right, but it's not a back line that's used to playing with each other week in, week out yet. However, we had a clean sheet last week. Now, obviously, we've got to thank Jack Butland for that, but maybe Butland's now feeling a little bit more confident because he's maybe feels he's got a bit of defence in front of him. I think sometimes it can be a two-way street, and the defence might feel a little bit better that they've got, a keeper that's in form behind them. It's amazing how it can all break down with one error, and we've seen it in the friendlies, the kind of pass back, there's a short passing. We saw it in the first half last week, where a lot of the passes were either overhit, nobody was reading the runs properly, it was a little disjointed. We just have to knock that out of the system. That's something that Rothwell can help control, holding the ball up and being that kind of playmaker that can push the ball forward. And it does seem that we are passing into areas where players are expected to be. I think there's a little bit of that as well, and we need to get a little bit sharper with that. But yeah, I think, Rothwell can be the key here. That midfield, I think our midfield is very strong. I think that's one of the few areas where we can look at and go, we've got strength, we've got depth, and I think that midfield three are the ones you're kind of going to choose every week as well. Diamandi and Raskin, work well together, and Rothwell's now already shown what he can do there in that position.
Jock, every game at the moment is Russell Martin's most important game, because he's only had so few, certainly a few competitive ones. But from our point of view, we need to get through this round to kind of meet a minimum requirement, really, to be in the Europa League group stages. Obviously, we want to be better than that. We want to be the Champions League. But that's really an important game for Russell Martin personally, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, because he, coming in, obviously, the experience he's not got a lot of European experience, and I think that, I know it was a concern of mine whenever the appointment was made. I was like, this guy's not got a lot of European experience, and even at playing level, he didn't have a lot of European experience, because the teams he played with down in England didn't really feature in Europe much. So it's a learning curve for him. But the first game you can only play and beat what's in front of you, and he did that at home. So he's off to the right start. And I say we just want to see that continue, because these are the sort of games that we're trying to attract players to play in these kind of games to get to the league stage, which is obviously the proper group stages of this new format of the Champions League. Yes, Europa League's our bread and butter, has been for a while, but we want to be on that, as I say, at the dinner table of the top competition, because that's where the money's at, and that's how you can attract better quality players into your team, by providing that week in, week out.
Andrew, take me through the subs. I feel it's a wee bit of a mix of influential and youth, by, because we have to. Who there can change the game for us if we need it?
Well, looking at it straight off, you got Gassama there. Obviously, he made the best impact you can ever make for a player just starting your career at Rangers. Absolutely fantastic. For once, we do have a bench you look at and you can go, right, we can turn to the bench. Obviously, as you say, there's quite a lot of the youngsters in there. Gentles, who could be on his way on loan, possibly in the next few days. But, somebody like Cameron, he could come on and help in an attacking sense. Cortez, obviously, we've seen that Martin does favour wingers that can use their opposing foot and, swap the wingers around. So Cortez can be added to that kind of almost organised madness. I think Neil McCann called it once organised chaos under Gerrard, when he used to swap Kent on the wings in some games at times. So, there are options there to disrupt what the Panathinaikos are looking to do, and obviously it affects the man marking as well. Obviously Jeff Day's there on the bench. Jeff Day does not seem to be getting a sniff at all. I don't see him looking to come on and make an impact at all. But then it just depends on Aaron's, because Aaron's, obviously, we look at that goal last week where it all started from, right at the byline, where he took on a player, created the space, but that's when he was out on the right. So we all know what he can do. But yeah, you know what? If we're in a situation where we end up being a bit comfortable going towards half-time, let's say, God forbid, we're 2-0 up, not like us to do anything like that, because, we don't do things the easy way, then you never know. You could see like a Bailey Rice maybe coming on. We all remember Old Trafford when, Clement changed the team, and in a sense it made us stronger. And I don't know if it's because the young guns had a point to prove being at Old Trafford playing against Man United, and then, of course, we get that kind of late equaliser, don't we? So, yeah, Bajrami, it's very hit and miss at the minute, but Bajrami did look good in the Bruges friendly. He possibly is somebody that could be an impact player, but the biggest impact player for me, Gassama, I would say, just based on what he did last week. He's high flying at the minute. So, yeah, definitely. He'd be a vital player to bring on when everyone's starting to tire.
Jock, last kind of thing on the team is Danilo gets the nod again. I expected that, but do you see a role for Dessers this evening at all?
I'd say so. Dessers will get minutes, because he needs minutes in his legs, because obviously he's late to pre-season with the knock he had. So that's a given. He's going to get these kind of minutes. But Dessers gets chances as well. No matter how badly we're playing, he always gets something. Ends up in his lap. It's just whether he takes it or not. So we're hoping, obviously, tonight's the night he does. European form is quite good. He's got a good record in European games for scoring. Another one I like to talk about is Cameron. I think Cameron might get a role tonight. He might get some minutes, because he's not wanting these minutes in his legs. He looked good when he came on against Middlesbrough. I was really surprised. I want to see more of him, see what he can do, because I think he's got the right attitude for what I was watching pre-season videos and stuff. I think he's one that could maybe catch the eye and surprise a few folk, even though he was probably a cop in signing.
Andrew, the game's 35 minutes away. I don't like score predictions because they're just meaningless to me, but give me a prediction of the outcome of this tie.
I think if we can score early on, I think Panathinaikos' heads will go down, and I think it could be a 2 or a 3-0. I really do. I think they'll know it's beyond them. I think we will be improved from the first game. I think you could see Martin's tactical changes, the way that we started moving the ball differently in that second half. I do think we can get the win out there. And you know what, Jock is right about Dessers. This is the type of game for Dessers. I think if he does come on, he could score. He is the enigma. This is the type of game that, you're dying for your striker for this type of game. And actually, I'd rather him in this game than, for Park. It sounds mad, doesn't it? Yeah, I think we'll get comfortable. They will really have to come at us if we go a goal up. And I think that just opens up the space for us to exploit. Martin's passing system and the way that we press and look to press, I think it would just be too much for them with all the space. So, you know what? 3-0. I'll go for it. Why not?
Fair enough. Jock, what's your thoughts?
I think I'm going to go 2-2. I think there'll be plenty. I think there'll be goals scored. I'm just hoping that we get the first goal, as Andrew says, because the heads might go at that point. Because really, there's an uphill battle there. 3 goals, It's a shame we don't have away goals. I used to love away goals, used to nick an away goal that just seen you through the tie because you could just sit comfortable. But I'll go 2-2. I think there'll be plenty of goals tonight.
I don't like away goals, Joe, because I was at the Victoria Ziskov game and was cheering when I thought we got the penalty, only for the guy behind me to explain you can't get a penalty when the ball's not in play. So that ruined that night for me. But I know what you mean. We have been on the the good side of away goals from time to time. Andrew mentioned something else. Well, Andrew mentioned something earlier on about we don't do things the easy way. I don't think I'd like to support a team that do things the easy way. That would be boring. So anyway, guys, the game's again 35 minutes away. Please go and enjoy it. I believe it is on BBC One or BBC at least, so you will be able to watch it.
BBC Scotland, yeah.
BBC Scotland, thank you, Andrew. Please let me let you know about our sponsors, which is offtothematchigo.co.uk, and you do get a 10% discount over there. Use the code JOHNNO10. Please go and check them out. Have a look at the stuff they've got, and if you fancy something, you get 10% off. So it leaves me to say thank you to Jock. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No, thanks for having me. I'll see you later on because I'll be on the post-match as well.
I was going to ask who's on the post-match.
Me, Ryan, and I think there's somebody else.
So we'll find somebody else. I won't be, I won't be up at that time, I don't think. But anyway, Andrew, thank you again for coming on as well, mate.
Always a pleasure to talk to you guys, and I'm looking forward to this. Come on, Rangers, let's do it.
Yep, I hope your team wins, everybody, and every night is a Rangers Journal night. See you soon.